Good morning. Let's try one more time over there. Good morning. That's good. That's good. Anand, Kayla, Rukma did a great job introducing myself. I just want to kind of take a moment and just kind of talk about what I've done so far. My last role, actually, I'm in between job, just finished Nutanix, 3.5 years run. Amazing run over there, go-to-market strategy, built go-to-market operating model, evolved it, product, solution, industries, technical marketing. Prior to that, Tricentis, ran product marketing there. When I was speaking here in, I think, 2019, I was getting out of, I was just getting in Nutanix at that time. App Dynamics, HP, HPE, Oracle, in different engineering, product management, product marketing roles, doing product marketing for 15 plus years. And so what I've done here today is basically, an operating model that I started, and there's no good framework or operating model. I mean, there are many of them, but the good thing is that you stick to something. You start with something, and one of the key takeaway that I want you to take with you is that follow something, have a framework, and I'm going to walk you through one. And I have just anchor slides primarily, and I have some examples. So feel free to ask questions in the middle, and let's make it interactive. That way, you get the best out of it. After the session, I'll be around, and we could talk more as needed. So go-to-market strategy. There's been a lot of different talks. Primarily, the whole idea behind having a strategy is that you plan for something. You look for the product that you have, that you're selling. You are looking for the right kind of personas, right kind of market, right kind of, like you heard about the segmentation, and I'll talk some more about that, and come up with a strategy, come up with a route to market, and then have a way to execute on that. It is, for product marketers, it is kind of core and center of what we do, having a go-to-market strategy. I'm going to talk about, I'll give you an example where not having a go-to-market strategy, or a strategy that stopped working for some reason, and kind of coming up with something which was required. So I'll talk about that in a second. But this is something not necessarily foreign to you, right? As a product marketer, that's what you do. Messaging, so positioning, messaging. I was actually looking at one of the presentation yesterday. They talked about the difference between positioning, messaging, and storytelling, right? So, it's core to us. This is what we do. Messaging is like 1, 2, 3 for us, understanding and articulating the challenges, coming up with a value proposition and then adding proof point to that, right? That's what it is. 1, 2, and 3 is as simple as that. But you need to make sure that you understand the problem of your persona. Then you could solve it. Launches, that's what we do. We help with the launches. We do a lot of content. We do web pages changes. We do sometimes, original surveys, work with analysts, come up with the support for the problem statement that you're trying to solve with your launch, with your announcement, and then come back and talk about your solution, how it addresses the problems and challenges that your customers are having. For example, I was at App Dynamics many years ago, and we were trying to do unified monitoring, kind of moving away from just a technology product that did Java, performance monitoring, to unified monitoring, where it was, like we were getting data from the logs, from the infrastructure, from the database, from application, and correlating it and making sense out of that, getting actionable insights for different personas. And so what we did is that we worked with an analyst, did some original surveys, and came up with that, okay, the challenges were that there are so many different tools, it's difficult to manage, it's expensive, all of that. And then when we had like 800 people from different part of the world, different practitioners kind of give you that insight that that's the challenge you're having, then you come back and talk about your solution that, hey, here is the unified monitoring solution that takes care of that. So that's, like one example of that. Thought leadership, supporting ARPR, setting your product for, leadership position, doing share of voices, first of all, benchmarking it. You need to know where you are. Then you could measure and help improve. So that's important. Demand gen support. Many times people think that product marketing's role is to only do that, like support the marketing team to kind of build their campaigns, be the speaker in the webinars, and so on. But it's a key part. We should also be kind of more data-driven, setting up the metrics and helping them track. And it's very, very important that you participate in that and even influence that where possible. So that's demand gen support and sales enablement. I feel that marketing's primary audience is sales. Who thinks that? Who thinks that sales is our primary audience? Oh, wow, very few of you. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, actually, especially for B2B, I think that sales is the primary audience. Ultimately, when you are helping, even if you're helping marketing do the demand gen and helping fill the top of the funnel, and many times marketers just kind of forget that, okay, that their job is done and move on. That's not enough. You need to work with sales and help them move the pipe. And ultimately, how do you do that? Is working with sales. All the account marketing and some of the modern marketing techniques that people are using, buying group-based marketing, account-based marketing, a lot of that requires working very closely with sales. And I feel that, and that's what I have done in my career, is that try to work very, very closely with sales team, and sales enablement becomes very, very important. So I think I'm just reiterating what you do. So it's no rocket science here, but I just wanted to reiterate the things that we do. And the core of that is go-to-market strategy. You need to know where you're going. You need to have vision. You need to have, this is the outcome I want to have, okay? So I'll give you an example. This is an example of my last role. I came in 4 years ago at Nutanix. When we had one product, it was very easy to articulate. We were leaders of HCI, hyper-converged infrastructure, very easy to, a leader in Gartner Magic Quadrant. We had a great tool, and we were able to really, go and talk. But suddenly, after the IPO, we built some additional products, and then we bought some. So suddenly we had like 15, 16 different products, right? And it was difficult to go to market. We were kind of spraying and praying to some extent, right? So it was, and every product team will come and say, hey, go talk to about, like in my messaging and your messaging, make sure that you're using my product, add my product, and so on. And it was becoming very difficult. So that's when I came in, kind of worked with the customer advisory board, worked with the sales team, and came up with a solution-based go-to-market strategy. So let's talk, what is solution? Solution could be anything. It's a very kind of overused word. It's basically about, like solving a problem. But what problem? Whose problem is it? It's the persona that you're targeting, the customer you're targeting. So we realized that for us, virtual desktops, VDI, 25% of our customers were using that. 20% of our customers were using databases. And a lot of others, different private cloud, different kind of infrastructure usage for our platform. So what we did is that we kind of went workload approach and kind of built our solution-based go-to-market around those solutions, and then prioritize. You cannot have multiple of them. So the number 3 always works for me. So I just picked top 3, which is end-user computing that includes virtual desktops or desktop as a service, database as a service, and then private cloud. And then we focused, and I'll talk about operating model that I used to kind of build and execute that. And then along with all of these kind of core solution areas and messages, what we did was that we had industry flavor. So we had solution marketing managers for different industries. And again, there also you have to prioritize. You cannot go and do all the industries. We prioritize financial services, healthcare, public sector. These people kind of took those messaging and took and made it tailored for those industries. So like at that time, like telehealth was becoming very, very important. And so you need to kind of look at how can we help that industry. So for that, the challenges in that industry, the messages we built was around that. Any questions so far? With me? Okay. All right, so now that we have a vision, now that we have a strategy, which, like many times you're given the strategy, the biggest thing is how do we execute on that strategy, right? So that's the biggest thing, and that's where I'm gonna spend rest of my time here. Let's grab a little water here. And I like this quote from Thomas Edison, is vision without execution is hallucination. And it's so true, I posted about my session the other day, and someone say, execution eats strategy every day, and that's the truth. So what I'm going to do for the rest of the time is just kind of give you a framework, and that's just a framework that I used, but, and there are tons of words. Don't worry about taking notes. I'll talk about them, and I'll give you examples for each one of those, and then we could follow up as needed. So starting with, this is like 7 steps here, starting with understanding the opportunity, what the objective is, right? So assessing the landscape, looking at the TAM, right? Even looking at the SAM, what is serviceable, because TAM itself does not give you a good way to kind of build your strategy. Right? So that's the starting point. That's where you need to start. And again, what I'm saying is, like, you may already be doing it. But for example, if you have to start on a new solution areas, if you have to build a new play, then kind of doing it in a systemic way is what I'm going to talk about. So you may already be doing bits and pieces of this, but what I'm saying is that this is a process that I use this as a repeatable process, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'll give you an example. So we were working on building the messaging for database as a service, and Nutanix had a product that helped basically manage the database lifecycle, made provisioning very easy, which for developers and DBAs, it was really, really good because it could help them with their continuous delivery journey in the nightly build when they're doing Jenkins and they're trying to test something, they could quickly build databases through scripts and so on, right? So we tried to figure out what's the opportunity is. We looked at the Gartner data, and we didn't want to go after the entire database market, but look at where we could target, focus, and then kind of look at also, kind of as you're building the strategy, what historically you have done. We had a pretty good 20% of our customers used Nutanix for databases, not necessarily the tool that we had for database management. So that was another good area to kind of go and target them because it was there in your install base, right? And we had a better close-in ratio with them. So like the win ratio was higher when customers used Nutanix for database. So kind of putting that together, putting that opportunity and sizing that is a first starting point that you have. Second one is segmentation and targeting. So, like you heard Rukma talk about, there was a session yesterday. This is an area that I feel that product marketers, that many of them that I have worked with, kind of don't necessarily spend a lot of time. I like product marketing team. I am data driven. I can build, Salesforce reports very easily, and whenever I hear something, I go and look for the report, build a report, and try to understand what's going on. There are many tools, Tableau, and so on. But having data savvy, having something that you could go play around with that, and especially as you are starting your journey on building a play, building a go-to-market operating model for anything that you're working on, it's very, very important that you understand the segmentation, look at the data that you have, look at the install base that you have, look at the prospect list that you have, kind of look at the different industry that you're serving, that in our case, it was financial services, healthcare. We had a team, we had sales engineering, we had demos, we had a lot of good stuff there, so we kind of focused on that. So very, very important to kind of do that segmentation. And there are ways to do that, but it's very important as a product marketer. We sometimes have seen is that we skip that part, or we say, okay, marketing ops will do that. Let's not worry about that. But to me, providing that strategy of who to go after, what size of account list, is it mid-market or large enterprises? Is it healthcare or public sector? What do you want to focus on? And again, kind of some of the newer marketing techniques around buyer group marketing, kind of looking at the persona, building that buyer group, using tools like Demandbase and others to kind of go after those. Unless you provide the guidance, you are the strategist for marketing, right? Unless you provide that guidance, different teams could go different route. They're smart people in the regions. They will do something. But if you provide a guidance, it becomes very, very easier for them. And so in this case, I'm just giving an example. And just kind of taking a reason for that, we looked at this was for the database and the different plays that we had for install base and the new logos and who to go after and how many number of customers there were. We kind of created that, and we created that for the entire company. This is kind of one of the 21 regions that we had, but you could kind of get that. And if you provide that information, this kind of information to the regional team, they would appreciate that, and they will understand, and then they have a goal to kind of go after how they could do that. Similarly, kind of this is, by the way, little extracurricular activities for PMMs, but if you do that, believe me, you will find friends. You will gain credibility. You will help move the pipe faster than ultimately your goal is to kind of decrease the cycle time from the time you start, the time someone we are starting to engage versus they are our customer, and then they come back and renew, right? Subscription in the subscription economy, that becomes very, very important. Okay, so now that you have the opportunity, you have segmented that, you know your route to market, then look for the use cases. Build, for example, and I'll give you some example from the database. Let me just kind of go there and look at what are the different use cases you should go after. Because your solution could be used for multiple use cases. Again, don't go after hundreds of them. Pick 3, pick 2, pick 4, and kind of make sure that you understand that you tailor your messages, tailor your content, tailor your tools, give the tools to your sales reps that they could use when they're talking to the customer. Give them the customer deck, give them the battle card, give them the customer references to go with that for those use cases, right? Then messaging platform. So I kind of talked about that when I started. It's that's the core of everything. But typically product marketers started here, right? What I was suggesting is that you need to start a little bit sooner, earlier, in the life cycle rather than kind of like starting from where we typically have started that, okay, we have to launch something, we have a product, we have to do something. We started with, okay, let's start with the messaging document, right? That's where we typically have started. But I think that we have to do some work before we get there. Again, messaging is core. Messaging to your personas are core. Building the personas are core. And again, I think I heard Rukma talk about is that you don't need to perfect it. And you don't need to be like kind of creating a Bible that everyone should be using forever, right? You should start with something, do your best, talk to your sales teams, use the information you have available, and get started. And then come back, and if you look at the last point that I'm talking about is optimization. You come back and optimize as you learn, as you see how things are working. So messaging, platform, and content is really, really important. The content to support the marketing teams, content to support the sales team. And like I'm giving a very example. This is what I use for end user computing, for example. Articulating the problem is the most important part, right? So you need to really understand what problem you're trying to solve, right? And once you understand that, once you can articulate that, once you could document that, once you could verify that with a sample set of customers, then you come back and build your messaging, then you build your value proposition, right? Once you build your value proposition, how you're offering the differential value to your customer. That should be the key part of the message. The differential value is like, what is their alternative? If the alternative is doing nothing, that means there is an opportunity cost. You need to highlight that. So you need to talk about the differential value. And the third, 1, 2, 3, when I talked about messaging, third thing is proof point. You have to make it believable, and it's believable when your customers see their peers doing it. When they kind of look at the standards organization or benchmark, they're doing it. So that's important. So you have to have proof point in your messaging. So just a couple of examples, and then kind of like pulling it together, doing the content for both sales and marketing. Marketing provides the air cover, and sales need to help throughout that sales life cycle. So the sales teams should be able to kind of work with marketing team throughout the life cycle. Enablement, again, very, very important. Sales and market enablement. I'll talk about market enablement in a minute, but let's talk sales enablement. Sales, just kind of starting with sales, 3 different internal persona. Sales reps, PMMs typically end up supporting sales reps, right? And the account executives, the training for those. SEs, I believe that the technical marketing team working with the product management should be but we should be owning the curriculum. Inside sales, 3 different persona, 3 different type of content. So stay with me there. So that's not only 3, you have to look at if you have indirect, you have channel, the similar personas exist there. And it's important that you build the same content. And as you're building the sales content, enablement content, if you have that in mind that this content will be used for partner, it makes your life easy. Because later on when you go and try to remove something that is company confidential and this and that, it becomes difficult. So if you know that, and you know that, okay, here are a few changes that I still need to make, which is okay, right? So that's another 3 personas, 6. Subscription economy, we are in subscription. Supporting customer support team becomes equally important. Similar personas exist there. The sales reps, which is the customer success reps, or technical account manager, technical reps, their content needs are a little bit different. It's all about adoption, so that customers could get the most out of the product and solution you have, so that, like they could, when it comes to the renewal, they renew it, right? So kind of helping them. So it's very important to kind of look at the different internal personas that you're supporting and build content for those. Another thing very, very important, and this is something that I learned over time, is that sales enablement start with selling it to the sales reps. You need to understand, because they have competitive priorities, right? They need to understand how they can make money, right? How they can meet their quota. So you have to sell them first. You have to tell them why they should invest their time learning about it, why they should become a perfect in articulating that, and you have to kind of sell them. So when you go to the sales kickoffs, that's where you spend some time with. Like you need to explain them why they could do it. Make it in a kind of in a way that makes sense for them. You heard sales are many times quant-driven. You have to tell them how it makes sense, how they could meet their quotas. So in this example, if a sales rep has like 2 million quotas, how many deals will it take if the ASP is 20K, 200K, and so on. So you have to explain it to them, make it very easy, very simple for them so that they could understand that. And then give them all the different tools that they could use, from battle card to the ROI tools and so on. Again, kind of building on that messaging and the market enablement, like I talked about, like doing, as you're building your buyer persona, buyer journey map, like you need to be thinking about all different content when they are early phase. You need to answer 3 questions. Why anything? Why do they need to change? Why anything? Why a product like yourself, and why now? You need to answer those questions, and in order to do that, you have to kind of come up with the right kind of tools, right kind of products, and map it with your buyer journey map. And thought leadership is another important thing that you need to work at. I'm giving an example of one of the roles that I had where I kind of built plan for thought leadership, kind of working with community, working with, like in this case, DevOps.com. We were the founding member of a consortium and working with partners over there, and things like that. It's very, very important that you spend time on that. So all the messaging, all the segmentation, all the enablement that you do is to help with, kind of complemented with the health marketing, build a pipe, so that they could kind of bring in people who are kind of interested in our product, engage with them, and then make it qualified lead and turn that into opportunity. This is Series Decisions model. Some of the newer models that they have come up with is more around a buyer group, account buyer group. But this is something that we have been using. This is something that you need to help and build the content, be available, the segmentation that we talked about, the title we talked about helps there. Like these are kind of some examples, different content, help with the messaging, help with the rally cries that could be used for advertisements and digital and so on. Is something that you help with. So finally, kind of measurement and optimization. So you did all of that, but you cannot come up with the best thing which will work 100% of the time. The persona that you have documented is the one that you're kind of really going after. Things change, strategy change, product change. You learn something new, so you need to be really kind of keeping on the top of that. And I built what we called pod structure, lack of any better term. It's a cross-functional team kind of working on a regular basis after setting up the metrics that we were tracking to review that, learn about from the sales teams, enablement teams, marketing teams on what's working, what's not, and kind of take this back. I'll give you an example, is that we figured out in one of our again, not very fancy looking slide over here, but we learned that our pipe was getting stuck in a phase called technical win. That means like product was great, our buyer was good, they really liked it, but they could not justify it to their economic buyers to write the check, right? So then we kind of worked with analysts and built some content for ROI. This is called TEI, Total Economic Impact Study, to help with them. So that's kind of like my a model. Having a vision is important, that's where you start, but the most importantly, having a way to execute on that is really, really important. Use a framework like this. I just read Sangram Vajre, he came up with his GTM framework, and they talk about some good stuff. Use that, but use something that you could repeat and you could evolve with. That's all I had. I know that I am at time here. Do you have time for a question? Or?
All right. Until the Slido gets up, if anyone wants to just raise their hand. Oh, I see a hand right back there. Mic is on its way.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, hi. The plan was beautiful. The entire case study was like something that I think it's a song. So, but what I wanted to understand in reality is working for startups, working for companies where every day is a hustle, right? So more than thinking for long term, it's about what we are going to do for this quarter. Our everyday plan becomes much more important than thinking for long term in that sense when it comes to execution. So how much of what you shared today was like an entire linear approach of step by step versus getting things done, but when you look back, you're able to put it in a certain frame? That's question one. And two, what is your suggestion when it comes to people who doesn't understand this long-term map, but they just want to get things done in marketing, like go and do the content and share it with the team, that's what we want. Yeah. But okay, so my question to you is, what is your suggestion there? Like, how do you even advocate on building that plan or map to convince the stakeholders?
Right. So the first question is that, you could use this framework for even a smaller stage, and you don't need to do everything, right? You don't need to get into too much detail. You don't need to go to and build sales enablement for like 9 different personas that I talk about. You start somewhere and then build from there. So I would say still kind of following a loose framework is important than not following any framework. So that's my recommendation. I know that priorities come and you still deal with that, and that's why it's, and product marketers, by the way, has this most important role. We are the glue for the entire company. Very few people understand that, but I guess this community is helping raise that understanding. Second question is that, what was that? I'm sorry now.
Your suggestions on people who are facing the challenge of
Yeah, I think that's a common problem. I think you'll hear more speakers also talk about basically raising that, it's not only about building the top of the funnel. So your job as educator, you need to educate them how it helps in the entire journey. How, if you do it systemically, how it will help with the conversion rate. It will help with the winning. If you touch marketing at the different places, there are more influences, more touches, then your conversion rate is much better, and then the deal size is much better. So you have to kind of use data to prove that, support that. It's not an easy thing, and there's no magic wand there, sorry.
Thank you, Anand. Yeah. So that was such a great presentation. VDI and end user computing are very close to my own heart as well, so I learned definitely a lot. I think a lot of these questions are ones I had as well, but unfortunately, due to time, let's just take one.
Okay.
So I'd love to, this is a question I have as well, so I'll add a vote to it and say, can you share what metrics you use to track success on a long-term ongoing basis?
So 2 things that I used. One was that the conversion rate of MQL to SQL, for lack of any term, like that conversion rate that kind of really talks about the quality of the leads you're bringing, content that you're building, the ISR, the inside sales training that you're doing. So that's one. It's very, very important that I used. Second one is that the time of the pipe, the lifetime of the pipe. Are you shrinking that? Are you helping that, like by moving the pipe? Are you shrinking that? And that is actually, it's kind of takes all the way from the top of the funnel to the winning or losing, and these are the two things that I used on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think with enterprise sales and sales cycles being so long, that time metric is like a really interesting and valuable one.
And that's where you learn things like that, like the pipe was getting stuck in a certain stage,
right.
and like suddenly like there's like huge backlog there, and that's where you learn when you track those.
Yeah, no, that I loved that you were able to get that level of data and like really use that as like a way to make your decisions. All right, let's all thank Anand for a super enlightening speech.
Thank you, everyone.